Hi guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Shout out to all the subscribers. Gratitude to anybody new. Welcome along. Thank you. Let's talk about this fight between Subriel Matias and Dalton Smith. Wow, that is a good one. Most people on this channel might not know who Dalton Smith is. Maybe not, because he's been at Matchroom for a while. He's fought exclusively in the UK, I think, as far as I know. But in this video, I'm going to let you know a bit more about him. I've watched him a few times. He's a very good fighter. He really is. He packs quite a punch on him. He's very confident, very respectful guy, tough guy as well. And it's a tremendous fight. And Subriel Matias coming off a win. I'm going to talk about that because I made a video, obviously post-fight, where I actually initially thought Puerto had won. I watched the fight back. I'll get into it later because I changed my scorecard a little bit. But I think ultimately the right man won with, after, you know, looking at all the headbutts that Puerto was doing and the holding and stuff like that. I'm going to talk about that and address that in a deeper fashion in a minute. But I want to talk about Dalton Smith first off, because you know, he's a tremendous fighter. He really is. Undefeated, very calculated, you know, with his punch selection. Doesn't really waste much.
Oh, lovely right uppercut in the legs. Stiffens slightly. There's another right hand over the top. This is good work from Dalton Smith.
He's got a very crisp, tight power. Tremendous body puncher as well.
That's good, lovely body shot. Big attack from Dalton Smith.
You know, he knocked out Zayas with that beautiful shovel shot. You know, really was a tremendous shot. Very accurate, as I said, but his punch, you can just tell it's sharp and tight and compact. And, you know, that's going to serve him well. That's probably an advantage he has. You know, Matias himself has said that he doesn't actually punch as hard as people might think, or he doesn't have, you know, one punch knockout power. Although, you know, when he lets those punches fly, that, especially that left hook.
Matias' hand speed, which is really extraordinary. There it is. And
he can certainly do damage, but obviously he's referring to the fact that he's like an accumulation fighter.
This is Matias walking down Jukambayev.
Which is true, but he's also heavy-handed, and that's a saying in boxing. It doesn't just mean you've got power, it just means your hands are like bricks, you know? It feels like your hands are bricks. Like, I don't know if there's any boxers, you know, I boxed in the amateurs a little bit. I was still a novice, but, you know, I sparred a lot. And, you know, there's sometimes you can just like feel somebody's gloves and you just like, they're heavy-handed because they don't have that explosive power, but they're just something that moves you in their hands. That's what Matias has got. And, you know, the cadence of his shots too, he's very tricky with it. That's deliberate.
Matias is breaking down Puerto already. I can already see Puerto a little bit, you know, worried.
He throws these weird shots in, you know, then he'll swing in harder shots. You know, the guys don't see them coming.
Getting a lot of rah-rah stuff in her corner. You're doing great, you're winning, and in the end, that was not the truth.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you don't tell, you know, you're...
And that's another reason why they get caught off, because they don't see them and they're heavy-handed, and he's up close. And he just sneaks in weird uppercuts. You know, he'll change his gloves from a conventional uppercut like that to just shooting random shots like that. He can do some feints in there as well. You know, he's a lot more tricky than people realize, but he is extraordinarily tough. And, you know, Dalton Smith, as tough as he is, will never have faced anybody like this, you know, because he's coming for your soul, Matias, big time. From the opening bell, and I've referred to his, you know, it's not style, but it's like a spider's web, you know, when you're trapped in it as an insect, and like, you know, he's just a poisonous spider, and it's really just a matter of time. You know, obviously he's had his losses. The Paro version of Matias is an old story, because if you do watch it, you know, you can tell something was, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Power. He fought a tremendous fight, 100%. I'm just saying, fighters go through stages where they're not quite at the races, whether it's outside the ring, whatever was going on, the fierceness wasn't there. You know, people were even saying that slightly before the fight, something wasn't quite right. I thought he was on. Do you know what I mean? I thought he looked ready to go, but he performed terribly, and you know he deserved to lose, and it was the manner that he lost in. But I think he really, you know, tried to really. He knew what sort of he'd done, and he wanted to avenge that and get the title back, and he did. And you know, credit to him, because it takes a lot to come back from that. I think he really felt like he let his people down. Do you know? So, you know, some people had issues with Turkey bringing in Dalton Smith straight away and not letting him celebrate. I kind of tend to agree. I don't think Turkey's got much compassion, to be honest with you. I don't think they care about these fighters like that. You know, even the tweet that he put out with Tim Tszyu got knocked out, and you know, I can't remember exactly what he said. I'll try and pull it up. It was just very unnecessary and very major lack of compassion. You know, these fighters go through a lot. And you know, he's just sort of playing around with their lives a little bit, but at the end of the day, you know, it is a big payday, hopefully, for Matias in his next fight. And you know, I remember Joe Calzaghe, the British Welsh champion, undefeated light heavyweight. I can't remember who he said it to. Maybe it was Larry Merchant, when, you know, they like stick a mic in your face and say, oh, so who you're fighting next? And barely give them a chance, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, they are fighters, you know? It's catch-22. They do fight for a living, so what do you expect? But I think, you know, you could have given him a bit of chance to enjoy his win. But at the same time, are you telling me he's going to turn down a massive payday? That's what he wants, really. I think, you know, obviously he wants to take the division down. In fact, he's been calling out a lot of guys and seeing them in person. You know, T.O. and Richardson.
You don't got power. You keep going.
Yeah. But now you don't got
Me?
hidratation.
Huh?
You don't got hydration.
What is that?
So 10 pounds.
Yeah, there's no excuse.
Yeah, no. So
Like I said,
you do IBS,
and we make it happen. Why would I fight you, right? That put pressure with 10 pounds. And I know you're gonna keep coming. Why would I fight you? Am I stupid? I'm gonna fight you now. No rehydration. You fight now.
I know.
Richardson Hitchins. Obviously, they had a little back and forth. This seemed pretty pleasant, to be fair. And then him and T.O., you know, obviously there's unfinished business there. And then Gary Antoine Russell.
I already been telling people I wanted to see Subriel before he even had a title. And he been talking about lately, he know how to beat me or whatever. I seen him at the last convention that we went to out Vegas. And I'm like, man, you gotta catch up with each other, my guy.
I mean, these are tough fights. Seriously. Got to get past Dalton Smith first, and that's not going to be easy. It really isn't. He's a good fighter. But I don't think Smith is you know, got the tools to be able to really gut it out. We really don't know, to be honest with you, if he's been in that kind of a situation, anything close where he's had to really dig very deep, or had that type of pressure put on him for that period of time where he hasn't been able to impact his power and stop somebody coming in, because that's what you got to realize against Matias. I don't think you can knock this guy out. And when you can't knock him out and your power's getting drained and diminished, that actually spurs him on. Yeah, he had his moments of being tired against Puello, to be honest with you. He definitely gassed a little bit in those late rounds. But, you know, he did find a way in the 10th. Let me talk about that, actually, because that was the round that I changed. I initially didn't give Matias a round after the 8th. I gave him 3 to 8. 2 was a swing round, so you could have quite easily given that to Matias. But when you're doing the swing rounds, you know, you could watch it again and give it to the other guy. Just like Bivol and Beterbiev, I compared it to that because, you know, I could go back and even Devin Haney and Loma. I watched that fight a few times and scored it either way sometimes. You know, it's like, just like, what are you looking for exactly? But there was a moment in the round 10 where Matias caught Puello with a good body shot, and actually I think it looked like he hurt him.
Walks the other back. Now keep taking and sapping the strength from the legs.
Good snapping shot on the inside from Matias. And now Matias re-energized.
Backed him up, and I was like, I didn't see that the first time. I think, okay, that was definitely a Matias round. Maybe not definitely, but I lent it to him because of that moment So I ended up scoring it a draw. But, you know, it doesn't really matter what I scored at the end of the day. Still, I think the right man won based on what Poyo was doing with his head and what doing with his clinching. Now, quickly speaking about clinching, because I didn't make a post-fight video. Congratulations to Xander Zayas, obviously new WBO champion. Thought he fought a good fight. I thought he had, you know, a couple of moments where he took a couple of big shots off of Chino, and I love seeing that, where fighters get hit clean from punches and they come back fine, because that's a tick right there on the chin. But he was holding a little bit too much. Let's just be honest, all right? And shout out to Coach Mario down there in Miami. He also mentioned, you know, he thought he had a bit of lack of killer instinct. And, you know, you could say, oh, I actually agree with that, to be honest with you. And then I was talking to somebody in the gym, shout out to Cuba Morgado, my bro. I'm trying to help him out with, you know, he's starting a new YouTube channel, but I've been pushing him on this channel too, just to get you guys to know him, because he's coming through the ranks, and, you know, I'm trying to help him out as much as I can. But
when we talk about what you got coming up next Friday, he said that was cool.
Oh, yeah,
we got a, kind of an audition,
yeah, it's an audition. You know, it's an amazing opportunity to hopefully get on the Canelo undercard. We're gonna do it's an open sparring. It's a pro sparring, and, you know, we get an opportunity to show out, to showcase. And to show that pressure.
We were having the same conversation, and, you know, obviously the fans were like saying, you know, they pull out the running tag and stuff like this. But Xander was boxing nicely, but they want you to fight. That's why they don't want you to do the boxing thing. They want you to fight and drag you into a game plan that isn't yours. So when you stick to a game plan, it's hard to tell sometimes just how fierce and violent can you get. And, you know, I guess he didn't need to, but at the same time, if you're trying to make a name for yourself and be a real superstar, yes, winning's important, 100%, it's the most important thing, but really go out there and stop the guy, you know, or be a bit more fierce. Yeah, I think we'd like to see that. Does he have that in him? You know, it's one of those traits that you cannot teach, unfortunately. It's just like your chin as well, which is why those two factors right there are so intriguing, because you cannot teach how a fighter reacts to being punched. Alright guys, I'm just going to jump in here really quickly. Ultimately, I think you probably can help a fighter react differently. You know, if they get hit for the first few times and they're acting poorly, you can probably train for it a little bit. But ultimately, you know, their DNA is their DNA. It's going to be fight or flight. It just depends how much of each. And in terms of your chin, that is your chin. You can certainly mentally prepare yourself as well. You can get a little bit more out of it, but, you know, you can't really teach a chin, and you certainly can't teach heart. You can't teach how their neurological reacts to it, right? And you can't teach the killer instinct. That's just in there or not. So if I was to guess if he had it or not, probably not, you know? But at the same time, you know, he's got a lot of skills to make him sure that he doesn't get down that road, but he's going to need to summon that when he fights these champions. Xander, I'm talking about here. I mean, I wouldn't favor him against Fondora. I wouldn't favor him against Ortiz. I wouldn't favor him against Bakram. I wouldn't favor him against Boots. I wouldn't favor him against, I don't know. I don't mean to be so negative about the guy, because I'm really, you know, I think it's great that he won a title, but that is a rough division. You know, hopefully he proves me wrong, because I would love to see him, you know, in a unification. But Fondora is an absolute nightmare. Ortiz is a nightmare. Bakram, we don't even know how dark that guy can go, but I mean, he just came off a great win, can't get a fight now. Yeah, rough. You know, I heard if the Boots Kelly fight is going to happen, I heard Xander was in line for the winner of that. Again, not an easy, it's just whatever angle you go in that division is rough fights. You know, Erickson Lubin, Jesus Ramos, Israel Madrimov. Tough fights up there, man. You know, I wish him well, though. I really do. And maybe he does have more of a killer instinct than we might think. But back to Matias and Smith. And also, I want to talk about the video that I dropped earlier this morning. I actually pulled it. And thank you to the person that shot me a message and gave me some reasons why I might need to pull the video. Because, you know, I'm not going to go into it on here because I don't want to go down that road again, but I was just trying to be ultra respectful, but I also understand because the video that I'm actually going to drop the same video but edit it, right? It's about Santeria, it's about music, it's about Agualine. So I was like basically going to recreate for the Matias Smith song fight, right? I like to make music. This is a music channel as well, you know. If you're just here for boxing, I mean, you might have stumbled across a music channel. It might not be your thing, that's okay, but we're about music on this channel. And I was recreating the pianos, and the whole video is talking about that, but I tied it in, and I didn't realize Matias had a different set of faith, and you know, I was like warned, or not warned, but politely said, look man, he might get offended by this. So I was like, all right, no problem, let me pull it. And I was happy to do that because I'm not trying to upset Subriel Matias. No way. But the Santeria is actually personal to me a little bit because my mother-in-law, who's Cuban, you know, she has introduced it in our house a little bit. I don't know to the extent of what you would call it, whether we practice it, probably not, I don't know. I'll explain a bit more in the video, so that will be coming up very shortly after this, but I wanted to make a separate one so, you know, I don't confuse you guys or confuse that song with the fight, because I'm going to separate them. Hopefully that makes sense, you know, because you know, and again, I'm very grateful for the comment that I received, because he was very respectful. He's like, look, this is, you know, because I know Pollo's trainer tried to pull something around some witchcraft or something like that. I'm not trying to get involved in none of that. But, you know, if you guys don't understand, or if there's some people that are tuned in and think, what the hell are you talking about? The video that I just made explains a lot of that. And I'm talking about how the meaning of the Agualine came about as well. Use other content creators, or use my mother-in-law's experience from the religion. And that's actually, you know, a very light, beautiful reasons that she gave me that I explained. And I talked about my life as well, if you're interested. But regards to Smith, right? He can punch, but one thing in his favor too, outside of punching, crisp, sharp, accurate punches, is he is fresher, a lot fresher. I don't know how old he is. He's probably late 20s. I'll check it up. I'll pull it up on the screen just to let you guys know. But that is going to be a big advantage for him. But how's he going to deal with the pressure? You know, if he doesn't, he might hurt Matias. To be honest with you, Matias has been hurt before. He's got a good solid chin, but he can be hurt. It might end up looking a bit like the Jukenbayev fight, if I'm honest, because you know, Jukenbayev can box a little bit, but guys that can box, and you know, they can punch a little bit and move, but it's not their forte to move, end up getting caught up in a fight, I think, usually. Like if Dalton Smith's gonna have to move, he's gonna have to move, box, use his jab, but can he tie Matias up a little bit? You know, can he turn him? Can he do, you know, the things necessary to slow the fight down legally? You know, I don't think so. And I think it's going to be rough down the stretch for Dalton Smith. You know, I wish him well with both fighters well. I hope they both come out of the ring healthy, and we hope we get a good, clean fight. But I don't think Dalton Smith's going to make it past the 10th round, to be honest with you. You know, as I said, he probably might end up hurting Matias early when he's got that snap, and he might catch him off guard. He's got very crisp power. You know, that is real power. I can see that, you know, he's very compact, believes in himself, comes in great shape, tough kid, you know, good team as well, undefeated. He just hasn't fought anywhere near the level of this, or hasn't dealt with anywhere near the level of violence or pressure that he's going to have to, especially when you get in there and, you know, psychologically your punches aren't doing what they normally do, and you don't have the skills to back it up, and you don't have, maybe he does. I've got to look at, this is just an early thoughts video, maybe I've got to look at a bit more film to see if he's been in situations like that to really know, because, you know, early thoughts videos are just what they are. And I wanted to make it clear that this video is just about the boxing, and the other one is, because I combined the two initially, but I'm separating them thanks to that guy. Let me know your thoughts on this fight. If you're from England, shout out to you. You know, I wish Dalton Smith well, I really do. I'm not really about picking the guy that is from where I'm from, you know. I generally don't think he's going to win the fight. So, you know, but I'd like to see a good fight and they both come out healthy. That's all we can ask for. But anyway, that is it for me. I'll try and get this up tonight along with the other one. I hope you guys are well. Always grateful for you tuning in. Massively. Appreciate it. I hope you have a great weekend. I'm about to watch this Kenny Sims Jr. versus Duarte fight. It's a good fight. That got cancelled last time, I think, actually. So, yeah. Anyway, wherever you do, have a peaceful weekend, right? Be the best you can be. I'm out.
Del medio.